Hello and welcome to my winter studio, everyone. So I'm getting ready for another game of War of the Crystal Peaks, which is our little campaign that we started this year with. And it was really an experiment to show how I use maps in these kinds of campaigns, how I use role-playing elements in these campaigns, and how I kind of hack and slash my war game rules to get what I want from the experience. So all of those things are wrapped up in this game. Now, one of the things is that we are nearing the end of this mini campaign, and Taurus Main, our Minotaur, is ahead in campaign points. He could very well win this campaign, or maybe not. We need an area to represent the Crystal Peaks because this is the focal point of the campaign, of the narrative. If Taurus Ironmane is able to conquer the Crystal Peaks territory, that becomes his kingdom. That from there, that's where his throne will be, and he will be able to rule the northern portion of Kronos under his father, right? Um, but the environment that I'm envisioning has some very bizarre crystals growing in the region. And these crystals are mysterious. They're definitely arcane. They're more like crystal shards. And so I needed a material to build those in a way that is super simple, super cheap, and quickly so that I can get playing the game. And that's basically the update I'm going to give you guys now, how I actually built this little section of the Crystal Peaks to satisfy my narrative. Are all the crystal shards splayed about on this dark card, and they've all been textured with the pliers. I'm going to probably go over them a little bit, give them a little bit more texture. I'm going to dry brush a little bit of white, and then I give it a little bit of glossy Mod Podge, and there we go. Some ice-like crystals, but they're not ice. They're something else entirely. So using my needle nose pliers, I make indentations in the plastic in order to give the plastic a more interesting texture. And this will be one of the mysterious crystal shards that abound in the Crystal Peaks. I don't think our Minotaur friend even knows the magical treasures that his throne, if he wins, will sit upon. So yeah, giving the plastic a good twist with the needle nose pliers, and that helps make the texturing. So in order to save a lot of space, and also to make it so these crystals can be used in a wide variety of different environments and games, I decided to go baseless with some of them. And so this is a paper clip that is hot glued to the bottom of the crystal, and once these are finished, they will be stored in a plastic sandwich bag and labeled, which can then go into my terrain bin. But one of the advantages is I can place the crystal into any rock terrain that I already have, either a foam piece or something, and it works really well. Could even puncture some of the cardboard that I use under here, or if I'm using a foam mat, a yoga mat underneath all this, then these pieces can go right into the surface of the felt, and it's great because felt can tolerate this kind of puncturing. So yeah, this is a method that I've used for a while now in order to save space. And here is the other space-saving method. It's a folding base using felt, and I'm gonna dry brush that with a little bit of brown so it'll represent like dirty snow. Now, using the feathering brush, it is important to dry brush as much as possible. I used a little bit of Liquitex pearlescent medium. This gives it a shine, and it's very good for doing like frosty crystal, smoky crystal, that kind of stuff. I've even used it on some of my fish schools for Deep Wars. It gives them a nice pearlescent sheen. So I wanted to try it out on the crystals, and it's not too bad. I'm going to do a little more highlighting on those edges so that we can really see those edges. And yeah, it's pretty much, it's very, 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 very simple terrain. Um, that's really what it's all about for me. That's my philosophy these days. Okay, so here are the crystals, and I've actually made these a lot nicer using the little tundra technique that I just showed. And definitely the crystals appear like they may have some kind of elemental magic or life force that they give to surrounding areas, right? So we don't really know what these giant crystals do yet, but they're here. Okay, and we can maybe explore that in future role-playing games or in future, games, war games like this. This could be a resource that factions would definitely fight over if they're highly magical. First and foremost, I'm using insulating foam by GE. This is $4 a can at Walmart, and you have a lot of different brands of this spray foam. And let me tell you, I think this is one of my favorite materials to make rocks nowadays. I think I'm going to, out of all the materials that I've experimented on this channel, I think this is going, I'm going to call it, this is going to be my primary material. It's cheap, it's easy, it dries quickly, you can paint it, you can make large pieces of terrain, you can make small pieces of terrain. As you can see here, I collected a lot of the residue left over, and I'm going to make terrain out of this residue. Also some scatter pieces of stone and all that. So yeah, insulating foam, best thing. I wanted to have some tundra represented in the form of scatter terrain. These are very, very simple little scatter terrain ideas to represent tundra. Now, tundra is an actual biome, so it's an environment, and it has its own plant populations, its own ecology in the real world. And so, this is not a correct representation, but tundra can be very, very colorful depending on the vegetation that's growing on it. And in areas where it is snow covered, this vegetation does poke out of the snow. Uh, and so in my fantasy world, I am representing uh, areas of tundra that are growing on the crystal peaks, and these areas are influenced by the magic of the crystals that are scattered in this area. So for now, I'm representing it as little pieces of scatter terrain very simply, right? Using my twine and using my homemade flocking powder. This is my uh, homemade autumn blends. And so I'm making a little bit of tundra scatter terrain that I can use to and make the board a little more interesting. Terrain-wise, it's not going to have a lot of effect on the game. All right, so a little bit of tundra. So here are the pieces, and I added a few bits of old Christmas tree decoration. These were old Christmas decorations, and I have a ton of these saved, and so I just cut a few pieces to represent the larger vegetation pieces. Now, if we start adding a lot of small pine trees and such, then it becomes a taiga and not a tundra. So those are just like different environments in these mountainous regions. Now, for my fantasy, I have a specialized owl bear that lives in these taiga or tundra. And I think I want to get the Reaper miniature version of the owl bear because, that's going to be really cool. They replace polar bears in my fantasy world. So I'd like to get a nice big owl bear for these regions. I don't have a lot of time, and I'm only going to make 3 little scatter terrain pieces to represent the tundra. Later, I would like to make an entire mat dedicated to just tundra and taiga environments. I'm probably mispronouncing that. It could be taiga. So I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing that. But be as it may, for now, this is what we're doing. Something super easy, super simple to simply represent these interesting areas in my mountain fantasy. And this is why I favor this soft base terrain, this felt-based terrain. I mean, I just stick everything in a plastic baggie. It's going to get labeled, and here are the other pieces, and they just go right into my terrain bin, and they occupy so little space that this has become one of my favorite methods, and it's part of my philosophy of not only saving space, but doing things very cheaply. Now, I am going to dry brush that felt a little bit. I didn't do that, but I'm going to do that just to give it a little bit of character. So once we add some RGB effects with my ring light, you know, it starts to really take effect. The RGB helps a lot with the effects, and it's kind of bizarre mountainous landscape with all these crystals coming out of the rocks. So it's a very, very simple way of representing something in my narrative that, you know, I made up. And that's it. That's the whole idea, is to create your worlds this way, in a way that doesn't, you know, destroy the pocket or take up a ton of space. Unfortunately, that rock is big, so that's going to take up space no matter what, but it doesn't have a base, so that helps out a little bit. All right, but that's the idea. Now that big hill there underneath is not necessarily in the middle of the board. Like I said, I use a randomized terrain placement feature, so that hill could actually be pushed way back, and I don't even have to roll for that. I could just do it. So this way there will be a lot of flat area where models are going to, you know, come at each other. Now if models have to come around here, this is the best way to go up this hill. So I like to add metallic washers to the base of these little commercial trees that I got on Dollar Tree a while back, and then adding the magnets on the rocks allows the trees to just be placed on there. Now, because they are flexible, I can kind of adjust them so that they're growing straight out of the rock. And yeah, there's a little bit of snow on the base there, but who cares? I mean, it's snow that has accumulated there. But this way the trees are magnetized and they can come on and off whichever way I want them. So here is the terrain pile for the campaign, including the new peak, this rock work here, which I'm going to have a lot of uses for this rock. It could be turned into underwater reefs. It could be turned into anything. But basically, here's the pile. And when I decide what happens in the campaign, if I do attack the crystal peaks, then I start my random terrain placement on the tabletop, and I'll have, you know, my terrain pile here with all the crystals ready to be placed. It's just the way I enjoy to play. All right, well, that's pretty much it, I think. Again, with the actual table setup, that hill could be pushed way back, and so that will change the look of it, right, rather than in the middle there. So that's it. The crystal peaks are pretty much formed, and now we have to see if we actually get to fight in the crystal peaks. We may get to fight in another area. We'll see. And so here are the harpies, and I'm just about finished with them. Now these harpies are part of the unit recruitment that I did, thanks to the side quests that I won in the last game. And patrons chose these harpies out of a number of different units that I could use to recruit. And so I painted them. The harpies, the daughter harpies, are from the game Descent, the board game Descent, and I just painted them. And then there's the matron harpy is from Reaper Miniatures. So there's the harpy hunting pack that can now be added to one of the warbands. And here is the miniature tray for the campaign. So everything I need is here. All of the AI enemies are here. My own warband is here with the Minotaur, and everything is labeled. I don't think I'm going to paint this dragon. Maybe I will, because I'd like to have that dragon painted. That's from the board game Descent, and I'd like to have that painted because I'd like to use that dragon. So everything's ready to go. I have my game journal here. Here's the game journal with everything that has happened so far, the rules, and I have all of the rules for a Song of Blades and Heroes. I won't be using all of these rules. I'm only using the campaign rules, which are fully compatible with Advanced Song of Blades and Heroes. And then here's the War of the Crystal Peaks folder, which has all of the stuff that I need for the game. And every game that I do on this channel has a folder like this with all of the stuff that I need for the game. Here's the map. So I got to set these things up and get ready for gaming. This is a patrons game, but I will have updates on the channel, snapshots of the battle as we continue. Alright, well, thank you for watching, folks. Thank you for your support. You can like and subscribe if you want to see updates of all these campaigns. When the big studio opens this year in the spring, then hopefully we can continue, maybe do some larger battles in the big studio, just like I wanted to do last year. So this year is going to be mostly campaigns, going back to a lot of these older games that I've played here on the channel and spending some time with them. So if you want to see the full games, they're going to be on my Patreon. Otherwise, just stay here and there will be plenty of snapshots, battlefield snapshots, that'll give an update on all of these different games as they come slowly. And there's also a role-playing tier for anyone interested in role-playing games. That's going on my Patreon as well. Alright, folks, thank you very much. If you have any questions about terrain or whatever, you can check out my Scratch Builder Monthly. It comes out every month, and it's in my Patreon shop, and it's also on Wargames Vault. Thanks again, folks, and I'll see you in the next video. Now I gotta get ready because there's a battle that's gonna go on. So have a great one, folks. Enjoy your games.